All right. Welcome to the lunch break here at the Live Well this Thursday, January 8th. It is the 8th of January already. Hope everybody's doing good out there as you guys get on slowly. I know how it works for the lunch break, but as you guys get on, I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you. If you're watching this or listening to this at a later time, we appreciate you guys here at the Live Well more than you will ever know. So glad you guys could stop by. I hope you're not working too hard today. It's been one of those weeks, has it not? And you're looking forward to either tonight's football games. Tonight's Live Well with Mikey Balls. It's going to be a good one. Put it on. Put the football game on. Mute it. Okay, if you want to watch football game, mute it. And listen to Mikey Balls and us and the crew tonight on the Live Well. But whether you're looking forward to the football games, fishing this weekend, just being off in general, hope you guys, are doing well and looking forward to that. You're working really hard out there, I know, but we're almost there. What's up, Coleman, Tyler? Who's watching the Fiesta Bowl tonight? I will tell you what, I'll be on the Live Well. We'll be doing the Live Well, but I will, I'm not going to lie, I'll have a screen sitting right over here to the side so I can kind of go back and forth a little bit. I have the volume down, of course. What's up, Steven Sturgeon, Jeff Brazil? Tomorrow night's game is more interesting to me anyway. So, Doc Holliday, how did you do yesterday, Doc? I know during the show yesterday you said you were going fishing. How was it out there? Big Bait John, what is up? Got to get on the water with you, dude, at some point. Got to get on the water with you. I'm building out my John boat now. Of course, with my daughter. My daughter is adopting a child, and so the last, I don't know, 3 weeks we've really been just pounding trying to get her house ready because you got to go through all of these inspections and things of that nature, and so it's really taken a lot of our time. And I'll be doing it again between the lunch break and the Live Well tonight. He's heading to the stand. All right, go get you a deer. Man, I'm thinking about going Sunday morning before church. Saturday, I don't know yet. Which kind of leads up to some of the topics we're going to talk about. But you guys, yeah, seriously. So if you're watching the football game tonight, put it on, turn the volume down, listen to us. Because I promise you, we're going to be more entertaining than the announcers. Now, the football game may be great. He had good fishing, little catching. Well, that's always better than work, right, Doc Holliday? I'm more interested in tomorrow night's game. I want to see Indiana and Oregon, the rematch. I actually watched the first one. So I'll be watching that tomorrow night. Trip fishing. What's up, stranger? Too long since I've visited. Going to come see you soon. Hey, listen, we need to get together for sure. For sure out there. Austin got a great topic for bad weather. Putting on a tournament Saturday, guaranteed $2,000 first place takeout, payout. Lake Hartwell, Broyles Landing. What's up, Tony? And then that's kind of what. Okay, we'll just jump right into it, Austin. That's kind of what spurred my thoughts this morning. Is I know you've got a tournament. I know Scott Barnes is throwing a tournament on Lanier, and of course, we've all been watching the weather forecast. Now, depending on which weather forecast you're watching, and of course, we know how weather forecast goes, right? It's the only job in the world you can be wrong half the time and still get paid. But some are saying some really seriously heavy rain in this area. Some, starting tomorrow night. Some are saying that it's actually going to be Saturday morning. Some are saying Saturday about 1 o'clock for it actually gets in this. I don't know. But it got me thinking because in the comment section, and you guys know I love when somebody makes a post or does a YouTube video, I'm straight to the comments. I want to know what people are thinking, how they're reacting. What's up, Doug? I want to know how they're reacting. And a lot of people, I know Scott put out, hey, what do you guys think? You want to go Saturday, Sunday? And a lot of guys were like, no, we're going Saturday. Hell yeah, let's go Saturday. And Scott's going to throw it Saturday. And this is definitely not anything to do with Scott Barnes. It just got me thinking at some point, there's a line, right? There's a line to which it's not safe, not comfortable, whatever it may be, to either A, just go fishing, or B, to put on a tournament. And so what I was wanting to know for you guys, what's that line for you? Okay. If you're a tournament director, what's that line? I pay to fish in bad weather, but I do it for free. Tony, absolutely, Tony. But Tony, what would be the weather to make you say, nope, this is not worth it? What's up, John G? What would be that dividing line? And are you someone like me? Now, when I was younger, there was no dividing line. I would fish in a hurricane, tornado. It didn't matter. As I've gotten older, I've kind of mellowed a little bit. Got to think about the family a little bit. Now, Tony says lightning, and I agree. I think we all can agree on lightning. Won't do it. Don't play with it. See, that's the difference in me now and me 10, 15 years ago. Lightning didn't bother me 10 or 15 years ago. I always was one of those fools out there. And I mean, it does stand, it rings true. I always said, when the good Lord wants me, he's going to get me no matter what. Almost like, what's the guy in, Forrest Gump? Major Dan. You remember when he's sitting up there in the hurricane, he's up on the crow's nest or whatever they call that thing, and he's just saying, bring it on. Uh, I've been that fool before. Now, I'm not that fool no more. Wind and lightning more than anything. Fished in a tornado once. That was rough. Clayton, Saturday's forecast will keep me off the lake. Getting old for that type of weather. So, okay, see, Clayton, you're an older guy now. And it is it an age thing? What is it? What makes us change our mind? I know one time Josh and I were fishing, and I've told this story before, that we were fishing an electric only tournament on Yahula up in Dahlonega. It was a evening tournament. Somebody was throwing a little night tournament. We got out, and if you know Yahula, it's a very small lake, number one, but it's got a bridge and a little river channel. We got up that river channel, and a thunderstorm rolled in. Your typical, I say your typical, summer thunderstorm. It ended up not being typical. But it was raining like crazy. It was thundering, and it was lightning all around it. Everybody else either got under the bridge or they parked it, and not Josh and I. We sat out there, and you know why? Because it was the only 30 minutes that entire tournament that the fish were biting. We were one, boom, 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 during a lightning storm. Now, looking back on it, what a stupid thing for me to do, because not only did we not win, but we put ourselves in harm's way. I wouldn't do it now. I've been on Latham in the afternoons where all the way in the very back of the lake, a big thunderstorm rolls up, and sometimes I'll hide in the culvert. You guys know, if you fish Latham, you know there's a culvert you can hide under. I've had to do that. And other times I've been trying to beat the thunderstorm back to the ramp. And it being an electric only lake, we're doing a mighty, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles an hour, and the thunderstorm overtakes us. I did that with my son one night, and my wife was mad as all get go. That was one of the worst. My wife, I've seen the devil in my wife, and I will say this, guys, if we're being honest, that 99.9% of the time I cause the devil to come out in her. I have to take credit for that. It is my fault. But there was that one night, me and my brother-in-law and my son were fishing. We're on the other side of Latham. We hear the thunder in the background. We know it. Good grief. And I did not cut my volume off. So I don't know who's calling me, but there you go. You're gone now. Sorry about that. But we were on the other side of the lake, and we thought we could beat it back, and it caught us. It was the only time I've seen Latham whitecapping. And actually, it was back before we had any electric outboards. We just had the trolling motors on the back. The wind was pushing us faster than the boat would go naturally. And I remember looking back, and my brother-in-law's off the back of the boat with him. He's casting. He's fishing the whole way through. Lightning hit us. My wife cussed me like a dog that night, as she should have. Just Danny being stupid. John G says, I'd have to go. It'd have to be lightning for me to not go out. I don't feel safe with 6 rods standing up a foot behind me. I get that. Coleman says, I fished the tail end of Helene on Hartwell. Fishing was crazy, but got in some bad situations in my 18-foot boat. That's another thing you got to think about, especially on a lake like Lanier. Especially if you're one of those guys that like to fish the dam, the big water down by the dam and all that. It can churn big time. It gets rough out there. Doug says lightning. I think lightning is the standard for everybody, right? I was going to fish Saturday, but it's going to be raining sideways out there, so I'm not fishing. Jeremiah says Clayton's just getting over the flu. You don't need to be going out in it anyway. I don't like thunderstorms whatsoever. Now here's a good one, Patricia. When your bilge pump goes out and your tackle box starts floating, it is not fun. And I have been there with that. I remember on Blue Ridge, I had old Phoenix. I'm not old Phoenix. I wish I had a Phoenix. But I had a Procraft, and we were up there, and a big thunderstorm came over, and we couldn't get in a dock. Lots of people will go hide in people's docks. Some people take offense to that, but sometimes you do what you got to do. We couldn't find one, and we just waited it out. And my My bilge pump was just cranking. Water was coming out the drain in the floor. It was rough. I stopped our participation in a tournament at Gunnersville. First time I saw real lightning, not flashes or heat lightning. I'm out. Oh, the first time I see it, I'm out, says Tony. Yeah. Now, Diaz, I don't mind heavy rain, but I find cover if there's lightning, usually an empty slip in a marina. If you were the tournament director, we all know, I think tournament directors have to take consideration a couple of things. First of all, fog. And I know we're talking about weather, but fog's a weather related thing. Should always be a delay, a no go with heavy fog out. And we know why. Lightning, I have been in tournaments where the tournament director delayed it till the thunderstorm passed over. What's up, Farmer? Delayed it till the thunderstorm passed over. 100% agree with that. But heavy rain. Is there a point where it's raining so much that it's not worth the safety of the participants or you fishing anyway? We always say the fish are wet anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? Danny knows I won't run in the fog, and I'm glad, Tony, that you didn't. Now, Tony, they'll be honest. We've talked about it before. That was, I've not been scared in a boat, and I wasn't scared that morning. But as we were idling, because we had waited so long on Blue Ridge, it was going to be 10 o'clock before that fog lifted. So we, and Blue Ridge is a smaller lake, not as much traffic, but we idled out. I won't say that I was scared. I will say that I was on guard. And you know what I'm talking about. And you were the same way. And that was fog. But sometimes rain can be just as bad, just as far as visibility and everything. Is there a point? Is there a point that is too much rain? Yeah, a heavy rain can be just as bad as fog. I will fish the absolute awful post front condition this Sunday though. 100%. You should. I'm going to be honest. Heavy rain, even with my really good rain gear, just isn't fun. I hate running and having little bullets hit me in the forehead. You got to get you one of them masks like Tony's got, one like stormtrooper masks or whatever. But I was just wondering, because it just crossed my mind. Because a lot of guys are not going to fish this weekend because of the rain. Is it because you're uncomfortable? Is it because safety? These days, if it's raining, I won't leave the house. I'm okay with it with rain if I'm already out in it and it comes in. Does rain? Okay, so how about that? We just can kind of teeter into that. Does the forecast, like Jeff said, does the forecast say, you know what? I'm not going. And a lot of times that forecast again doesn't always come to fruition, right? And then sometimes you say, well, it's not gonna start raining till 1 o'clock. We got heavy line of thunderstorms coming in at 1 o'clock. How many times you been on the water and that all of a sudden it shows up at 11? Shows up at 11. Patricia, the first the BFL event, 20-pound bag DQ'd. I saw Slick's post on that. I have not seen as to why. I do know that Slick said that the person in question, this is as far as I've looked into it, self-reported. I think it was an information type rule, so I don't know. But you know what? What's the freaking odds, right? I mean, is that not just the way that the season needs to start after 2025 and all the cheating? And cheating is a strong word. Let's reset. Let's change that. Not cheating, the DQs, because not every DQ out there is I feel is somebody purposefully trying to cheat. You know what I'm saying? Tyler says the weather on Saturday was a good excuse to make a good financial decision and save $120. But there's some guys, they're going to spend that 120. They're going to go no matter what. They're diehards. Listen, give it to them. Now that fog was there. Farmer was there. That was the Blue Ridge fog. That lake is always foggy no matter what time of year. Same with Notley. But that fog was different that day. William, weather forecasters would be fired immediately in any other job. Seldom correct. I find myself, I'm a radar watcher, especially when they say it might snow, right? I don't know how many of you guys. I love snow. I want one good snow a year. I don't know if we're going to get it this year. And we're in the South. I'm not up in Michigan and all that. I mean, they get sick of snow. One good snow a year. So when they say, "Hey, it's going to snow," I got the radar on. I'm watching it. I want to see that blue line coming on in, coming on in. But you're right. You're right. It is one of those things that it's their best guess. And in any other job, your best guess is not good. Smallmouth go crazy during big storms. I'd imagine spots are the same. Absolutely, Jeremiah. A lot of guys talk about that. Nasty weather. We talk about it on the show. Nasty weather, spots seem to bite. What's up, Tracy Coker? I see you guys are throwing in the comments real quick. Let's pull up Tony's right here. I need to pull up some. And don't use one of those neck gaiters to cover your face in the heavy rain. He basically waterboarded himself on a run. Yeah. And I tell you what's, rain, sleet. God, sleet sucks going down the lake if you ain't got a mask or motorcycle helmet or goggles. That crap hurts. It does hurt. And there's Coker again. Austin says it's one of them deals. If you reschedule the tournament, it will be perfect conditions the day of. That is true. Many guys have done that. They say, okay, look, forecast is bad. We're going to postpone the tournament. And then what happens? Then it becomes perfect. And then what happens to everybody else? They complain because the guy made a decision to delay the tournament. It's almost a can't win situation. It's like, it's like calling a trick play in football or going for it on 4th and 50. Something stupid, like that. But if it works, you're a genius. But if it doesn't work, everybody's going to pick the decision apart. It's kind of a no-win situation for a tournament director. There's old Pontoon Jody. How you doing, hon? Wadawi seems to be foggier more than most lakes I fish, Doug says. Lanier has been super foggy recently, and yes, it has. I mean, I'm 30 minutes from Lanier, and I can just tell you when I wake up in the morning, it is like it's so foggy. It has been so, I don't know, humid or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, that it looks like it rains every morning at my house, and it hasn't rained. Just everything is just wet. It's just wet. So I guess that will contribute to the fog right there. Oh man, Coleman, yeah, we're having a celebration of life for my father-in-law this weekend, so no fishing. And Coleman, still tell Abby. I sent her a message and all that, and she responded. But I'm so sorry. It's never a good time to lose a dad or a parent or a friend. There's never a good time for that. But right there before the wedding and all the holidays and all that, super rough timing on that family. So we always, we got them in our thoughts and prayers and all that. Seriously, that's tough. That's tough. And so she's a tough woman, and I know she'll power through it. And it's a club that I belong to that eventually, well, most of us will all belong to. It's not a great club to be a part of, though. But yeah, so pass my condolences again on to her for that. Just awful. Okay, so Dane's awake. Here we go, Dane. Freezing rain in the forecast twice the week of the 20th. I want no freezing rain. Freezing rain, power goes out. Power goes out, wife can't watch cable. I call it cable, whatever the hell we got. Does anybody have cable anymore? Like old school cable? When we had satellites, I don't use a satellite anymore. I think we Wi-Fi everything. I don't know how the hell it works. I think we watch Fubu. And I only did that because I could get the Braves games. But when the power goes out and you ain't got a good relationship with your significant other, which I do. You get stuck in a house with two people don't like each other and you can't go nowhere and the power's out. Not a good combination. It's been terrible the last couple of weeks on Wadawi. A lot of guys said big ones bite the last time I fished in the cold ass rain. They do. That's the thing. I guarantee you Scott Barnes tournament's going to go off. And let's say the rain comes in early and it's just miserably nasty all day. Them guys are going to come in with a 20+ pound bag to win it. Always happens. And then those of us that are like, I don't want to go fish in the rain, we're going to be like, man, I should have went. But you never know, right? A bunch of fours hit the deck that day. Sounds legit. Farmer. And cool thing about Farmer is Farmer works for Amiclola EMC, and they get weather forecasts and things that we don't get, given their electrical company. They get these forecasts from the government, all kinds of things that we as the public don't get. And so there's been quite a few times Farmer has told me of an upcoming event or to pay attention to something that they don't report on the news and all that. So it's always good to have a friend that works for an EMC. He says this coming Saturday is going to have some teeth, heavy rain, and strong winds. Okay, so now we're putting that combination of heavy rain with the possibility of strong winds. You're a tournament director. What do? You chance it? Smaller lake, electric only lake. The wind's not going to be near the problem as far as it being rough. It's going to wear guys' batteries out, but you're on a big lake. You're on Lanier. You're on Allatoona. Clark's Hill, because we talked about Clark's Hill yesterday, and we talked about with Caleb. I didn't realize how big Clark's Hill was. I thought somewhere I read it was 59,000 acres. And if you get a strong wind in a shallow lake, we've heard horror stories about Okeechobee when the wind comes in. Pete with Bass U was talking about what happened to Lake Erie when a strong wind came in. Now, granted, that was 70-mile-an-hour winds, but Lake Erie is a big ass body of water. And if not half the lake, but if the western front of the lake is dry where people can walk on it, that's showing the power of wind pushing all 7 foot down on the west side, 7 foot up on the east side towards Buffalo. How much of a win does it take for a tournament director to say, it's just not worth a chance? And again, this is not saying anybody's in the wrong. I'm genuinely curious as to how you guys make that decision. Or as a competitor, how you make that decision. Are you going to go out? Are you going to risk it? Are you a diehard? I that 20, 30-year-old Danny, I'm out there. 40, I'm kind of thinking about it. 50-year-old Danny is like, nah, bro. Electric only, yes. Big bass, big glitter rocket, big lake. It's not worth it to me because number one, I'm probably not going to win the tournament. You have to figure that in a little bit too. If you are a weekly donator such as is what I say. I'm not going out. I'm going to do what Tyler said, and I'm going to make a financial decision. Not only is it a safety decision, it's a financial decision. Let's see. Tyler, I said, my wife says I'm crazy, but a helmet is a game changer. No, listen, William, the first time this shows my ignorance. Okay. I didn't fish big bass tournaments on big lakes. I fished some electric only stuff, and I was a farm pond guy coming up. But I remember the first time I went to a tournament, I watched guys putting on motorcycle helmets. Now, this is my ignorance, just me being honest. Okay. My first thought was, ain't no way in hell I'm getting in the boat with that guy if he's got to put a motorcycle helmet on because he's doing it for safety. It did not even cross my mind at the time about the wind and the rain and all that, which now, of course, I know. And it's very smart to do. But I remember seeing them guys going like, nah, bro, not getting in the boat with you. Tyler says, it's mostly the wind that keeps me off the water. I've had such a hard time fishing in really heavy wind, and it makes me angry. Yeah, for sure. War Eagle the best. Danny, how was the weather in the good old days in North Georgia back then? Way colder, feels like early March today. You know what, War? That's an interesting question. We're not going to get into the global warming debate, the political part, all of that. But I will tell you this. This is the honest to God's truth. And it might just be the perspective of me as an older guy compared to when I was younger. To me, the 80s and the 90s, and I have no scientific data to back this up. I haven't looked it up. It seemed to me that it was colder, or we had some more cold. We got snow more often. Could be totally wrong. This is just me in memory. I will say that I got into deer hunting when I met my father-in-law, when I met Amanda and my father-in-law in the early 90s. And it was always cold to me in October and November. Now, and again, that's 90s. Now we're in 2026, this past deer season and these last few, it doesn't get cold enough for me to really get excited about hunting until the end of October, November. And it just seems to me that the cold weather has shifted to, like you said, February, March. I could be 100% wrong on that, but just going by perspective and memory, that's the way it feels to me. We got 93, we had the blizzard. That was a cold ass couple of weeks and a lot of snow. We've had some good snows between here and there, but it seemed to me like I can remember in high school, again, we're talking the 80s, missing a couple of weeks because it was so cold in Forsyth County. It was too cold to go to school. Like we had like 0-degree temps for, I don't know, a week seemed like that. Just seemed like we were out of school, not only because of snow, but because of the cold. Of course, now, they get out of school for a lot of other reasons, and I get it. But I think so. It just seems to me like it was way colder earlier back in the day. Could I be wrong? Yeah. Somebody I'm sure out there will pull out some charts and say, no, the average mean temperature was this, and we get, yeah, I'm just going by what I feel. Now it could be that I'm older now. I can tell you this, I haven't hunted in a good snow. I probably did that more late 90s than I did now. There's been a few times I've got to hunt, like, when I say a snow, I ain't talking about no damn snow flurries. I'm talking about snow here in Georgia. But again, now there's always that year that's a little bit different. Remember last year, not 2025, but 2024? Remember it got cold as all get go, I think in November. Like we had a deep freeze in November. And this year's just kind of been up and down, up and down. Been cold for a couple weeks, hot for a couple weeks, cold for a couple weeks, hot for a couple weeks. We're going to be hot. We set some record highs around Christmas. We have a chance to set. We might have a chance to set a record high or something like that right before this front, but then it's going to be cold again. It's Georgia. I don't know, but it's a good, War Eagle. I think you're on to something, but I can't scientifically prove it. Eric says my boat's staying in the shop Saturday. Sunday is when I will get my fix. See, I've got now, of course, now with the company split, we had an electric only boat that would belong to the company. And so I had to give that up to do what we were doing. But I got old John boat and I am decking it out. I'm gonna fish solo this year. And I'm decking it out and trying to fix it up. But every chance I get when I'm not down there at my daughter's house working or something like that, it's raining. And I don't have a garage. It's outside. So Saturday, I'm not, I might get to do a little work on it. Sunday's gonna be my day to do some work on it. I got a tournament in 3 weeks. I got to get that thing ready. The fog on Lanier was on the water yesterday till 9:30. That's about right. Now Dane says we canceled Notley's tournament 3 years ago. Got a call the day of the tournament thanking us for canceling because the road on the dam was a sheet of ice. And how many tournaments during the wintertime? How about this? How many times this year have you guys had to bring salt or kitty litter for the ramp? Because guys taking boats in and out in the ramp ice up. Not this past Toys for Tots, but the Toys for Tots before we had to do that. This year we didn't have to do that. Doug says, had the hell scared out of me on Wadowee with a crappie guide one morning. He was trying to run with his lines and map, almost killed us a couple of times. Never again. I get it. And, we all know the situation with the young man on Smith Lake. Granted, weather apparently had nothing to do with it. But now, when it first came out, everybody was saying fog, this, fog, all that kind of stuff. Well, there are situations where, like when Tony and I were fishing, where fog was a factor. There's no way in the world we could have run. Well, we could have. But had Tony kicked up that big motor and started taking off, I'd have had my hat off, slapping him to slow your ass down, stop it. But he wouldn't have. He's responsible. Tony says, I pay for Wi-Fi. Anything that comes in on the TV is from creative sourcing on my part. I get it. I don't run in the fog, period. It's not worth it. Don't talk about the power going out, Farmer says. I'll have words with Dane mentioning freezing rain, as you should. Everybody going to be going buying that milk. Why do we buy milk and bread? Why is that a staple? Like the last thing when the power's out that I want is a cold ass glass of milk and a cold sandwich. And I know it's easy, you can fix a sandwich, but I mean seriously, like if I know the power's going out, I want some charcoal, I want some steaks. No, I don't drink no more. But at the time, I'd like to put my beer outside so it stay cold. But now I just do it with my, Dr. Pepper Zeros and my Pepsi Zeros and stuff like that. I don't want to eat bread and milk. In fact, at this point in my life, I don't like cereal. And you know what? Let me tell you what irritates the daylights out of me. And my wife does it. She likes cereal. Like, just pour enough milk in there to make the cereal wet. No, she gets done with her cereal, and there is 2 cups of milk still left in that thing. I'm like, what? You just wasted that cow. That cow had to get caressed, and you're gonna waste it. I just don't eat cereal anymore. So milk. We'll throw this out there. I didn't have that. Good God, I'm so far behind on the comment section. I'm gonna skip ahead, guys. So if I missed anything, type it again. I'm sorry. Milk sandwiches. Uh, Bread and milk sounds depressing. Can make some good French toast. Um, Coleman says get the methylate and Alka-Seltzer pills ready. They're gonna be spawning in February. I tried that when I was younger. Put the Alka-Seltzer in the panties and not the panties, the pantyhose. The pantyhose. Do it in a bed a time or two. Never worked for me. Let's see. Let me pull up Pontoon Jody. I'm kind of going backwards a little bit. Was it actually colder back then, or has the gear and the outerwear advanced to where you can stay warmer now? Now, damn pontoon Jody, we don't try to get that deep on this show. You threw a curveball right there. You could be right though. I remember riding my bike around in shorts and a t-shirt a couple days before the blizzard of '96. God, we're sounding really old. Glenn Burns is comparing this weather system to '96. That's one of the things I watched. Um, my mom told me they had thunder snow here in the '90s when the April blizzard came through. Yes. Now I remember so let's see. Yeah, it would have been in the '90s. Actually, it might have even been in the late '80s when we lived in Forsyth County, Glen Wallace Road. We knew it was supposed to snow. A line of thunderstorms came in, and it started off as rain, really heavy rain. And about 5 minutes into the thunderstorm, it switched all over to snow. And we probably got 5 or 6 inches that night of snow. That's the one. That's the one time I truly remember. I truly remember a real thunder snow. But I was like you, Eric. Back when I was in high school and early 20s, like it didn't matter how cold it was. I had on a pair of shorts. I would wear hoodies and stuff, but I always wore shorts. Now can't do that no more. Uh, so Tony and Coker, you guys are all talking about that if it works. I said, what kind of kinky stuff was going on back in the day? What do you mean? There wasn't nothing kinky going on back in the day. Coleman, get your mind out of the gutter. Now Tony says it was colder. Okay, let me pull that comment up. Come on, right here. Let's go. There we go. My dad had us cutting firewood in September and October for the older folks. It just seemed that way. It just seemed that way. Now, Aaron says, I remember that snowstorm back in 2014 was in college, and we all hit the liquor store and went on a week-long bender. Now, Aaron, yeah, eventually you grow out of that stuff. What's up, Alex? But I still don't get this. I still don't get and that people make fun of us. But the milk and the bread. Don't know why we're talking about that today. We were talking about fishing tournaments and how bad the weather is. Now we're talking about milk and bread and snowstorms. Does anyone know somewhere I can send rod and reels for repair or maintenance? You guys throw that out in the comment section. I know of Nutters in Cartersville, and that's about it. I'm sure Hammonds has got some. I would call Hammonds. I'm sure they got a guy or two over there that does it. Dane says, Farmer and I fished a Spro tournament on Lanier with 40 miles per hour wind. I was on that. I think that's the one was that the one I fished with Alex? Was that the one I fished with Alex? Because I got a great story about that one. Literally fished a dock that morning, went back to it in the afternoon. The dock was turned upside down, being held on by one cable. If that was the tournament I fished with Alex Pierce, we went out of Laurel Park, Dana. Am I correct on that? That was the tournament we went out of Laurel. Cold as crap, windy as hell. We went into probably the first. We didn't even leave Laurel Park to start off with, and Alex really wasn't crazy, but I remember it was so bad that he pulled into the back of a pocket, and he put his power poles down in about 5 foot of water, and we sat there for about 30 minutes. And then Alex looked at me and listen, you know when your partner ain't really wanting to be there, and it was his boat. I was his co-angler that day. And I know good and damn well we ain't catching no fish back here in the back of this pocket in 5 foot of water because even the wind's back there. I mean, it was one of the few places that we could get where there wasn't no wind hardly, but there was still wind. But it was not an ideal place to be fishing given those conditions and the time of year and everything. And I remember he started like, well, man, coffee. I could really could use a cup of coffee. Boy, the couch would be good. You know when they start dropping them hints? You know what I'm talking about? When they start dropping hints, and then finally I looked at Alex and I said, Alex, I'm cold as hell, bro. If you want to go home, let's go home. That's all it took. What he was doing, he was trying to throw in a little, he was trying to work me up to try to feel me out. He was dropping hints to feel me out. Dude, all you had to say was, Danny, fishing sucks. It's cold. It's windy as hell. I ain't having a good time. Can we go home? We already got our goodie pack from Spro. Yeah, dude, let's roll. And I remember we was off the water by 10:30. Now, I thought that tournament would suck, but I think the guys, they had some good bags got brought in, and they were one on jerkbait. I think the jerkbait was the one that got them that day. Ryan Potts. In the South, we go through this about every 7 years. Warm winters lead to hot, dry summers. Yeah. Do you guys ever hear of some of the older people say, "Man, we need a really cold winter to kill all the bugs"? I used to believe that growing up. First of all, I don't believe it now, and here's the reason why I don't believe it now. You ever watched the hunting show up in Canada? Them guys up there bear hunting. Now, if there was a place in this world where it would get cold enough to kill bugs, it'd be Canada. Them jokers having to wear face nets and everything. The flies are so bad and all that up there. And so, like, I don't buy into that anymore. I don't buy into that anymore. But I remember a lot of old timers were like, "Man, we need a really cold winter to kill all them mosquitoes." Them damn mosquitoes ain't going nowhere. Never have, never will. That's just one of them old sayings that I just don't buy anymore. Uh, Garb 34R123. What lure are you supposed to tie? Uh, what lure are you supposed to tie to a tip up? I was running a chunky rig on one. LOL. Okay, I am not reading that correctly. What lure are you supposed to tie to a tip up? If you guys know the answer to that, because for some reason my brain's not working, and I'm not. That's not working. It's not processing right now. The boat show in Atlanta is this week. For you fly guys, I saw where there's normally the Atlanta Fly Fishing Show. It got canceled this year for some reason, but the Fish Hawk is having one on it. Let's see, Doug. It was colder back in the day. I remember ice spewed up on red clay ditches on dirt roads in October. Yes, I remember that. Of course, I'm old enough to remember when Moby Dick was a minnow. Yes, you are that old, my friend. But I'm right there with you. Don't see that a lot. Of course, I grew up on a dirt road, so I saw it all the time. I tell anyone, Tony says, I tell anyone that fishes with me, say something if you're miserable. Nothing worse than being stuck and miserable. Yeah. And listen, and if he didn't wanted to fish, I'd have fished. But I was right there with him. But it was funny. He was dropping them hints. Man, that cup of coffee sure would be good right now. Yeah, it would, buddy. Uh, Garb caught an 8-inch perch with a belly on him ice fishing yesterday. Good Lord, buddy, where are you fishing from? I'm going to try for a pike today using an Acme jackhammer. TT. Now, I seen a mosquito yesterday out on the ice. LOL. Oh, he's talking about ice fishing. No wonder I didn't know what in the hell he was talking about. Garb, where you at? Well, you're ice fishing. That is one thing I want to do, though. We were going to do an episode of the TV show, but it never got cold enough to follow. And we were going to go back up to Michigan and do it on Big Glen Lake, and it didn't get cold. It didn't freeze. It didn't. It didn't freeze. Where Garb? Where you at, buddy? I'm very curious. Um, a blue herring. Where did that come from, Patricia? Man, there's so many comments. I'm missing so many. If you're miserable on my boat, and I'm not, you're SOL. Well, Tyler, say it like it is, there, buddy. Anyway, yeah, we started about talking about tournament fishing, and then we got off into winter fishing, right? Just how miserable it is. But that day was good old Wisconsin. Hell yeah, dude. I'm glad you're watching today from good old Wisconsin. Now, you guys got some mean ass cheese curds up there. You know what I'm talking about? I know you know what I'm talking about. Good Lord. The first year we had the Electric Elites, I actually had a sponsor from Wisconsin, and they would send us before every tournament a frozen styrofoam box. They'd ship it from Wisconsin, and then I would give a bag of these cheese curds to every team, one to every participant. My Lord, those things were good. Gained a lot of weight. I like them things. They squeak. If you get a good one, they squeak when you eat them. That's awesome. Wisconsin, hell yeah. Hartwell was off yesterday. Pea soup fog till 10:30 a.m. One fish all day. Should have gone to Clark's Hill, according to Caleb Hudson. Tyler, I'm more talking about someone who's basically new to fishing. Most folks I prep before we go. That's true. That is true. Sometimes you got to know what you're getting into. Now, I saw a guy one time in a tournament, and this is electric only again. This was over here at Latham. I forget the fella's name. He's a big guy, but it come a rainstorm. I remember I think if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going back on memory, Tim White and them were there. Tim White always had a yellow because he worked for AT&T, so he had his like AT&T approved rain suits. A lot of guys had rain suits. This guy didn't have nothing except for a big black trash bag, a big trash bag, that you go put the leaves and all in. And he cut the head out and he cut things out, and so he is fishing with a trash bag poncho. I remember that. Um, Crazy. But good Lord, man, that's been a long, long time ago. Ain't nothing in Wisconsin but cheese, deer, and walleye. Well, what else do you need? They got beer up there too for you guys that like to partake of that. I've never been to Wisconsin. I would like to go. I would love to deer hunt in Wisconsin. Let's see. What's up, Nathan? He's fine here. We used to catch blue herring with cast nets in December at night. Wow, that's cold. That is really, really cold. I don't know about going out throwing cast nets at night. Not that it's sketchy nut. I'm talking about when it's cold. Met some awesome folks in Wisconsin while deer hunting. Wisconsin's got some big ass deer. They do, or they used to. I don't know if they have to deal with that CRD, whatever the hell that shit is. I don't know if they have to deal with all that stuff up there. But I know when I got into deer hunting that you always paid attention to what when you're reading the magazines and everything. It was always Wisconsin and all that stuff. But ice fishing is something that I would love to do. I really would. Now, again, I always enjoy the videos of where you got a young kid or something, and they got that 2-foot Snoopy rod that they like to use or whatever. And I'm just joking, but you know what I'm talking about, that short rod. And all of a sudden that thing goes, and they start reeling, and it's like a daggum 42-inch muskie. And they caught it on 8-pound test, little bitty rod. And they pull it up through a hole that's just, the guy actually has to reach his hand down in there and pull the fish out the right way. That would really be cool. Had a buddy whose partner showed up for a winter tournament unprepared. He had to take him back to the ramp. He went back out and ended up losing a 7-pounder at the boat because he did not have a net man, and he was pissed. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Somebody else was telling me about a BFL down here a couple years ago where a guy from Florida came up, and he actually was the boater. And one of the local guys drew him as he was the co-angler. And it was one of those cold ass, windy, crappy weather days on Lake Lanier. And this guy from Florida didn't take into account what the weather would be like. And all he had was a t-shirt and maybe a thin, windbreaker. Because, he's from Florida. He's tough, and they fished for about, I don't know, a couple hours. And then that guy turned around and looked, and I forget who the local angler was, but I just remember the story. He's like, well, I got to go home. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. Ice fishing rods just get a little shrinkage because it's cold outside. Nothing wrong with it. Good Lord, Coleman. My girlfriend, let's see, got Mercy yesterday. She was cold, and I let her sleep in the truck. I do have sympathy for her. Well, that's nice of you to do that. Glad you were thinking about it right there. Yep, Tony, never go unprepared. Now, Tony can tell you I was prepared for Blue Ridge, and I was still cold. I had on my Spro Wicked Weather gear. I had on stuff underneath it. The problem with a lot of those tournaments, and you dress up and you bundle up, it's for that first run of the morning, right? It's for that first run. And then after that, you start peeling layers off, and then you got to put them back on for the next run. It's a pain in the ass. Kendra, that's when you're on net. That's when you're on the net, man. Not an excuse, right there. The feeling when you try and boat flip and they shake it out or break it on the line, man, that absolutely sucks for sure. Well, I guess we covered the weather, right? We covered the weather. Where are you guys gonna fish this weekend? How many of you are actually going to fish this weekend? And I said I was going to talk about jigs because, of course, Bassmaster Magazine. We're trying to talk about a technique every day, and their Bass Basics in their magazine this month is jig tactics for winter giants. Now, of course, they say, its effectiveness has a lot to do with crawfish. Where they live in cold months, bass tend to gravitate to rock. That's also where crayfish, crawfish, crawdaddies, whatever you want to call them, spend the winter. And so they become easy protein filled meals for bass. How many guys are throwing jigs this time of year? We talked about it the other night a little bit. It was curious that Caleb didn't throw them. I remember Bassmaster Eufaula couldn't put in a boat. Uh, I remember Bassmaster at Eufaula, Alabama, put in, couldn't get boat out, 2 fish, 1. Good Lord. That was a hell of a day. I put my blue 3XL 100 mile per hour Bass Pro Shop condom on and kept going in the rain. When the lightning strikes, I'm hiding under a dock like I'm a 2-year-old girl. Ain't we all? It's exactly what I would do. My gauge for if I'm dressed warm enough is if I sweat or not hooking the boat up. If you sweat doing that, you'll be plenty warm the rest of the day. Well, up north, a lot of the guys that hunt will not put their guys I've hunted with will not put their like extreme cold gear on when they're walking to the stand because they'll sweat on the way to the stand, and then once you get up there, if they've got it all on, they sweat, and then once you get up there, you freeze to death because you're already sweaty and wet and everything. It just makes you colder. A lot of those guys will not put it on until they get in the stand, and I'm like, makes sense because I was up there and like, don't do that. Do not put your stuff on. Um, I was fishing. Kendra says I was fishing a BFL heading the way in right into the eye of the storm. I literally saw 2 funnel clouds ascending from the edge of the wall cloud. We ended up having to shut down mid-river. Yeah, I would. Um, Nathan says, to hell with that weather. I think today and yesterday were the best days to get out. Unfortunately, can't do it. Now, Tracy Coker says, can't go wrong with the jig. He's jumping in on the jigs, throw them all year. It's been a few weeks since I caught a fish on a jig. It's kind of boring, but I love throwing them. Yeah, jigs are like that, right? They're one of those baits where they are boring, but man, are they not just effective as hell? How are you working them? And that's kind of what I was. Let me pull up my super duper light right there. One thing they're talking about in this is the bite during the wintertime with the jig because we all want to feel them pull the line, the vibration, all that. But lots of times when you're fishing it, like you're on a bluff wall or something, those fish are inhaling them on the way down. And so I know a lot of guys will use a high speed reel when they're jig fishing. They'll go up on it. I mean, they'll use one of the faster reels that you can get because of catching up in those situations. I know when Tim and I were fishing the Toys for Tots, we probably should have been throwing a jig, but we were on those bluff walls throwing a shaky head and letting it come down, or a Nico and stuff. And lots of times when it hits that one drop, you guys know the drop I'm talking about. Like you'll throw right up there on the wall, and then you pull off about 4 or 5 foot, and it's that drop down another 5-10 feet to the next little step, kind of. That's a lot of times that's where you're going to get your bite, right? And I know a lot of guys. I mean, what do you guys use? What gear ratio do you guys use? And we're talking wintertime right now. We're talking wintertime. Do you use a faster reel to catch up with them? Are you just dragging them? You hopping them? What are you doing? I know when you talk to Clint Bartlett about fishing a jig year round, he's slow drag, painfully slow drag. Make a pig and jig great again. I saw where Uncle Josh has been out for about the last year or so. That's all I threw in the '80s was a pig and a jig, a true Uncle Josh pork trailer. I got in so many times I got in trouble though because I would steal my papa or my daddy's rods, and I'd put a pig and jig on, and I'd go out there. And when I come back, I would just stick it in the garage or slide it back into Papa's thing in his little back room where he kept all his rod and reels, and I wouldn't take that thing off, and it would dry. And once some things dried, you basically had to have a sawzall to get them off the hook. Silver Punk's in the house now. There you go. Nathan, when and where do y'all fish y'all's jigs, and how? Messick says drag a jig this time of year. Danny, summertime, hop it like it's a shaky head. There you go. Jeremiah says, I don't really hop jigs. I just drag and shake them. I just hop it every so often just to shake the debris off. Nathan, for you, it's those rocky points on Hartwell. Everybody's going to be targeting rocky points with them for sure. I mean, just what I just said basically is, the bass will gravitate towards rocks. Rocks heat up quicker, right, in the wintertime. Two things everybody always talks about heating up faster is rocks and the black floats on some of our docks. But you get the rock, especially one that gets the sun first thing in the morning, that's where it's going to heat up. Bass attend to that because the bait fish tend to go to that, but crayfish go to it. So rocky points. But you can flip any piece of structure. Any piece of structure. And from the bank, listen, I know it's tough and you do get hung up, but fishing a jig is like buying a Jeep and bitching about the gas mileage. You know what you're going to get into. You're going to lose some jigs. It's just the nature of the bait. March tornado watch spinnerbait equals big fish. There you go. Um, Silverpunk says half the time I don't feel and pick up the jig. I have to reel in the slack and feel for the tension and watch the line. You got to, yeah, line watching. I feel lucky if I feel them take it. That is true. Sometimes you can see that when they inhale it, you can see that little pop of the line. You guys know what I'm talking about. But listen, one thing Ryan always said with jigs, and it holds true, is hook sets are free. Yes, occasionally that might be that big old log down there, but if you feel some tension, rock it. John G's going to fish the Oconee River this weekend. Huh. Jeremiah says, my jig setup is a 7.6 heavy, 8-to-1 reel, 17-pound fluoro, period, unless I'm heavy cover flipping. Danny, I like those cat head rocks that Danny talks about in the laydowns are best for me. Cat head rocks, that is something that Jonathan Farmer, he used to say. That's why we call them cat head rocks. Something about a biscuit, the size of a good buttermilk biscuit, those cat head biscuits he talks about. He loves that size rock. Now, Tracy Coker, I knew this was going to come because you really get in on, you have bought in on this bait. I've been using the wobblehead, bobblehead, or whatever you want to call it. Mainly the Strike King 3/8 ounce jointed structured head. You can drag it through some of the roughest crap you can think of. And I know you mentioned that a lot, Tracy. You've really bought in on that. I know Tim loves throwing that. Tim McGuire. And happy birthday to Tim. You guys listen, go on Facebook or whatever. Wish old Tim a happy birthday. He's getting up there like I am. We ain't got many left. Tyler says, I drag year round and shake for sure. Do we think it's going to be an early spring this year? If I said yes, it wouldn't be. If I said no, it would be. So I don't know, but could be. How about that? Could be. Nathan, try going lighter on your jig. This is not, he's fishing from the bank. So he's pulling back up. This might be something that might help you. Like a 5/16 baby boo jig. Maybe going lighter might be, that might help you. Now here goes old Patricia. Here we go. You fish a jig by pulling the line with your fingers 100%. This has got to be an old timer tip. So let's think about this. When you say pulling your line with your finger, I'm thinking, okay, I got my hand on my bait caster, right? And when you say pulling the line, am I pulling it with, say, my pointer finger just above my bait caster, like I'm just kind of lifting it? How are we pulling it? Which finger are we using? Let's say, for example, we got a right hand reel. So my left hand is on the rod and reel. I got my left hand on the reel. And you say by pulling the line with your finger. Which finger, which hand? We want to know. Jeremiah says, yeah, and listen, Nathan, Jeremiah would be a good resource for you because Jeremiah pretty much bank fishes everywhere. He has no problems, but you do snag over a lot of rocks. That you two should be buddies, Nathan. You really could tie into Jeremiah for bank fishing advice. He could give that to you. Now, Tracy Coker, and then we're back to the wobblehead, guys. Okay, let it drop, move it slowly, then stop. Light twitch of the rod tip to get them to react. Been working great lately using a Rage Bug trailer. Okay. Now Jeremiah says this is an old school technique. Pulling with your fingers is an old school technique called stitching. Used to be common with big worms on Texas rigs. Okay, but Jeremiah, which finger is he pulling it with? Because I haven't done that. I'm not a stitcher. So you're teaching me something right here. And Nathan says, I've pulled my line with my finger on a Texas rig, but it's hard to tell if it's a fish. I'm really honestly, I don't stitch. I don't know what you guys are talking about as far as stitching. I'm sure some of the older guys might. But I'm trying to visualize it in my head. I'm trying to visualize. I got a jig. I've casted the jig out. Jig's on the bottom. Pulling the line. Are we doing it with the reel hand or the one we reel with or the one that we're holding with? That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to kind of picture what you guys are talking about stitching. And Tracy says that wobblehead does rig up weedless. It does. I know Tim likes to throw it in the summertime, and he likes to throw it fast. Like he's almost like he's taking a underspin, something. You know how we count rocks, we tick rocks. He's doing that in the summer with that wobblehead. And he works it across a point, across a lot of rocks really fast, and it almost triggers that reaction bite. You're pulling it more like a jig. So, I mean, it's definitely versatile if you can do it both ways. But I imagine that wobblehead too. And I'm trying to, now, guys, listen, I take medicine for this shit. But I got so many thoughts going on in my brain right now. I'm trying to think of how the wobblehead looks coming through the water while I'm trying to think about this stitching and pulling of the line with my fingers. Okay. So Nathan says, hold the line that you reel with. I'm guessing that's what he's doing. So he's talking about doing it this way. What would be the advantage of that? As opposed to I got this kick ass graphite whatever rod that's really sensitive. What would be the advantages of actually taking the line with your finger? And I'm being very serious. You guys are teaching me right now. I don't use crankbaits or jigs when bank fishing. You will get snapped a lot and lose your baits. Not worth it. That's War Eagle the best. And he does do that. Okay, here we go. Some guys fish the wobblehead like a crankbait or a scrounger. That's what Tim does. Patricia, he's answering the question right here. Flip it with your right, pull it with your left thumb and index finger, then move your rod tip. Okay, so I'm going to have to flip it. Flip it. I'm going to flip it with my left. Flip it with my left. Pull it with my right thumb and index finger. Trying to do it this way. Then move your rod tip. I'm just trying to think of what would be the advantage of that as far as sensitivity goes. I have a hard enough time I'm definitely 100% not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying in my head to figure out why that would be advantageous to me as far as feeling the bite. So explain that to me, because you might be something we need to all try to do. You might be saying something that we need to try, put in our arsenal. But when things like that, I have to run it through my head and I have to understand what I'm trying to accomplish. What am I trying to accomplish by doing that? Strike King has a pointed head, works better than a football style for coming through cover. Talking about the wobblehead. It takes a lot of jig catches to tell the difference between hung on something versus in a fish's mouth. Yes, for sure. All right, Jeremiah. Okay, now we got guys talking about stitching. Stitch with the reel hand so that you can still set the hook. I do it on days when it's super tough because you barely move the bait doing it. People don't realize using the rod that they're moving the bait 3 feet. Okay, so now I think I'm getting what you're talking about. So I got the line out. I'm holding it with my left hand. If I take and pull the line a little bit, I'm only pulling the bait a couple of inches and then raising the rod to catch up. Is that what you're saying? As opposed to if guys just start raising the rod, you're absolutely right. They think they're moving the bait down there a few inches, but they're really moving it 4 feet. Is that what we're talking about? And I think that's it. I think that's what you're trying to accomplish. What's up, Aaron? If you're fishing a bank with a lot of cover, when the fish are shallow, take a crappie grub, drop it in the cattails or grass, and hold it vertically and shake it. It may take a fish a minute or two, but they will hit it. Patricia says you feel the bite with the line, not the rod. Okay. It helps you not tug on the fish as hard, I guess, so they don't feel you pull. You back to the wobblehead, you can fish it with a swim bait too. It mimics a wounded bait fish. Nathan said, I didn't even know it was a thing people did. I just tried it. And Kendra said that makes sense. So yeah, so that's the thing is I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, and so what you're trying to do, you want to feel the line. I get that. And then Jeremiah is also saying you're not moving the bait near as far. Don't dance the jig, Tracy says. So that makes sense. It's almost like you're not dead sticking it, but you're not pulling it near. You just very short movements underwater, which people don't realize when they pull a rod up a lot. You pull a rod tip up a foot, you're probably moving that bait 2 to 3 down there without even knowing it. See, we learned something today. We all learned about stitching. There you go. All right, so we've gone about an hour. That's about all I'm going to go today because we will be back tonight with Mikey Balls, 8 o'clock. You guys join us. Again, if you're watching a football game, put the football game on, turn the volume down, listen to us. I don't see the point in stitching if you have a good rod, Tyler. That's why I was trying to figure it out. Tracy said, don't dance the jig. How many crawfish have you ever seen doing the Macarena? And Kendra says, creep it along, 100%. I can agree on all that. It all makes sense, guys. but it's a term I never knew about. If you guys aren't watching tonight, and I don't talk to you till next Tuesday on the next lunch break, hey, if you're going out there in that weather this weekend, be careful. Please be careful. Um, and I'm gonna hit this one last comment, Patricia, because we're back on the stitching. Yeah, we got old Mikey on tonight. I know a guy that flips docks on Lanier. 3 flips per dock would win $60 to $100,000 a year. Gary Myers, for sure. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. You guys join us tonight, 8 o'clock. And again, if I don't see you tonight, it's gonna be a great show. I'm looking forward to picking the hell out of Mikey's brain. Guy's very opinionated and he knows a lot of things. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to have that conversation. Bring your notebooks. But if you're out there fishing this weekend, hunting this, whatever you're doing, especially Saturday when the weather's supposed to really suck, be careful out there. Take the time to make sure you got all the right stuff in your boat, your rain gear, your cold weather gear, your PFDs, all that stuff. And if you go out there, I hope you catch the hell out of some fish. I hope you do well, but safety first, okay? Because I want to see you guys again. So with that, I'm getting ready to go do some work on my daughter's house. I tell you what, this adoption's killing me, but I'm gonna go get that finished up for her, and then we'll be back tonight at 8 o'clock. So you guys be good. Love the hell out of you guys that you guys come and join me every day on this. No lunch break tomorrow. It's Friday. Friday's my day off. So we will see you next Tuesday on the lunch break, next Monday night with a kayak episode if you're into the kayak thing. So you guys be good.